What's up, guys? Just got done watching Thunder Grizzlies Game 4. Really enjoyed this one as both teams brought a lot of defensive intensity. Both teams are doing a great job of taking away the first and second options and making the other team's role players beat them. In Game 3, it was the Grizzlies role players who stepped up and had a huge game. In Game 4, it was the Thunder's role players who stepped up and really answered the bell. Particularly Reggie Jackson, who was posing all kinds of problems for the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown. Both teams came out with a defensive mentality to start this game, and you can see the Grizzlies do a great job of packing the paint on Russell Westbrook dribble penetration, taking away the first and second option, and forcing the Thunder into this low percentage shot at the end of the clock. With so many great shot makers on the floor in this series, it's really not a reasonable expectation to shut the other team out. And the idea behind both teams' defense is to make it as hard as possible for the other team to score. Now you can see here the short action that have given the Thunder so much trouble in this series. They do a great job of clogging up the paint, cutting off Marc Gasol's roll, forcing the skip to the backside of the play where they have Russell Westbrook waiting to close out. Despite Gasol hitting the hooker here, the Grizzlies know they'll have to work into their second or third actions to score. You can see here the Thunder do a great job of pinning Mike Conley up against the sideline. This is not the ideal spot for the Grizzlies to start this play, and ultimately Mike Conley has to reroute himself and he's forced into a low percentage shot up against the shot clock. Here's one of Kevin Durant's favorite plays. They've been running for this for Kevin Durant for years, and watch how the Grizzlies do a great job corralling him off the pin down screen and forcing him to pass to the lowest percentage option on the floor. That'd be Thabo Sefolosha, 31% shooter in the corner. And these are the kinds of things you see in an NBA playoff series. When two teams get to know each other really well, they can really kind of dictate the action and force the flow of the game to the lowest percentage shot on the floor. And you can see here another one of Kevin Durant's go-to plays, the pick and roll with Russell Westbrook, allowing him to get into the short post. And really when the Thunder have Kendrick Perkins and Sefolosha on the floor, it allows the Grizzlies to really pack in and get all their eyes on Kevin Durant. There's not a lot of options and not a lot of space for him to operate. And it ends up with this low percentage shot here. Another one of Kevin Durant's favorite plays here is the Thunder try to get him going early in the game. And one of the big issues for the Thunder is when they have Perkins and Sefolosha on the floor, they're a lot better defensively, but they don't get the offensive spacing needed to get Kevin Durant open looks. On the other coin, their best offensive lineup, possibly with Serge Ibaka at the 5 and Derek Fisher at the 2, leaves them vulnerable on the defensive end as they can't stop Zach Randolph and Mike Conley. Here's that defensive unit on the other end, and Thabo Sefolosha has done a great job all series bothering Mike Conley. At 6'7", he's able to pick up Conley at half court and bother him out there on the perimeter, as well as use his length to disrupt pick and rolls and passing lanes into the paint. Kendrick Perkins has been able to get physical with Zach Randolph and push him away from the spots on the floor that he wants to get to. You can see as the Grizzlies get into their corner splits action, it's really poor spacing. There's Zach Randolph about 20 feet, and he has to settle for the poor jump shot at the end of the shot clock. These are the kind of things that Sefolosha and Perkins do for the Thunder on the defensive end. Even though they're messing up the spacing on the offensive end, they are bringing a lot to the table defensively. Now here's the player off the bench that's been the X factor for the Thunder, and that's Reggie Jackson, who's really torched the Grizzlies' second unit, particularly Beno Udrih, who cannot contain him on the perimeter and let him get right to the hoop on wide open pick and roll layups. And not only has Reggie Jackson been a nuisance against the Grizzlies' second unit, he's had a lot of success playing with the first unit as well. You can see here on the dribble penetration from Russell Westbrook, he's able to knock down the open shot, making the Grizzlies pay for packing it in into the paint. Huge area of concern for the Grizzlies, particularly Coach Yeager, has been Reggie Jackson pick and rolls. You can see here they're trying to force a sideline coverage to Reggie Jackson, try to pin him up against the edge of the court. He does a great job of cutting back to the middle of the floor and getting the finish. And no matter what coverage the Grizzlies throw at Jackson, he's shown a mastery of the pick and roll. He's really been able to get to the middle of the floor no matter the coverage. You can see here the Grizzlies are trying to go under the screen. Marc Gasol needs to corral him and keep him in the middle of the floor. But Jackson flips the screen back around the other way into a step up is able to charge down the middle of the floor and make a great finish against that former Defensive Player of the Year. Now, I felt like the beginning of the third quarter is where the Thunder really made their stamp on this game. They came out with a lot of defensive intensity to start the quarter and really set the tone for the remainder of the half. You can see here Ibaka working really hard to front the post on Marc Gasol, force him way out onto the floor, possibly 18-20 feet from the rim. Then he holds his ground as Marc Gasol tries to back him down and ultimately forces him into the extremely tough shot. Going back the other way, you can see the offensive adjustments that the Thunder made at halftime. And when they get the screen and roll with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant and a mismatch on Courtney Lee, you can see the much better spacing that the Thunder have on the floor and the nice little screen that Ibaka gives to Sefolosha so he can really get an open look for three. Now, a couple mental mistakes here from the Grizzlies. Mike Conley takes an ill-advised shot early in the shot clock, and this allows Kevin Durant to get out in transition. If you're Tayshaun Prince, you got to be sprinting to close out the NBA's leading scorer this year. You can't let Kevin Durant get going on open shots like this in transition. Now, I love the defensive intensity here from the Thunder. You can see they're really moving around the court, moving quickly. Despite two guys closing out to the same, they're able to readjust. And watch how Russell Westbrook plays the percentages here. Decides whether he should take the 49% shot underneath or force him outside into the 37% shot from Courtney Lee. The Thunder play the percentages, and it works out in their favor. Towards the end of the game now, and this was what made this game really fun to watch, the great defensive effort on the Thunder, forcing the Grizzlies into their third, maybe fourth option on this play. And Tony Allen, one of the role players, steps up and hits the huge jumper. This is just one of the things that makes playoff basketball so exciting. Big-time shot from a big-time player as Marc Gasol scoots into the free throw line and hits the mid-range jumper. Perhaps no one hit bigger shots than Reggie Jackson down the stretch. Watch this crazy three-point shot to pull the Thunder within two. And more of the same here. Here's Reggie Jackson on those pick and rolls, giving the Grizzlies all sorts of trouble in this series. He's able to tie it up going into the end. Now, here's the last play from the Grizzlies, and I really don't like how this one went down. You can see the Thunder do a great job of rerouting Mike Conley on the pick and roll, and it really disrupts the timing between Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph here. Marc Gasol comes up the floor on the short action, and he comes too early, allowing the Thunder to adjust. And also, what is Tony Allen doing? He's really standing in poor spacing, and it leads to the contested shot for the Grizzlies. Now as we head to overtime, same play that I showed early in the video, and you can see with the Thunder's best offensive lineup on the floor, there's a lot more spacing for Kevin Durant to get an open look. And going back the other way, how is it that Mike Miller, at 48 years old or whatever he is still finding ways to get open looks and hit big-time shots in the playoffs? Now I can assure you these are the types of plays that Coach Yeager and the staff will be watching over and over again in the film room. And this is just a really tough one to defend. The reason for that is look at the guys you have off the ball. Those are first-team All-NBA Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant spacing the floor. So when Reggie Jackson is playing at this level and really making plays, it's kind of a tough situation for the Grizzlies and really puts a lot of pressure on their defense. And with the game on the line, the Grizzlies run a similar play as they did at the end of regulation. And you can see the spacing's much better with Mike Miller and Courtney Lee spacing the floor. And Conley's unable to make a play on the hedge, and it kind of breaks down, forces him into a tough but makeable shot that doesn't go down for the Grizzlies. So there we go, great game, Game 4, and I'm really enjoying this series. A lot of adjustments and plays going back and forth, both the Thunder and the Grizzlies. Kind of depends on which team's role players are stepping up and hitting the big shots. That's the team that tends to pull out the game. It's a really fun series